I just have to make these for our remote students. So if I start with a little bit of white acrylic here, and then go to my blue and add that, and just gently add it into that white, I can get a really nice kind of cloudy blended look. And then if I clean that color off my brush and just add a little bit more white instead of blue, it's gonna get lighter as it gets towards the bottom, you know, and we can pretend this is like a little mini canvas and then come back and paint a tree on it later. And I can get my other brush, but it's really important that I wipe off that blue paint, because otherwise you're gonna get frustrated and you'll find that it's not gonna make a gradient. If you leave that dark blue paint on and keep working down with it, it's all gonna turn kind of dark blue. But if you wipe the dark blue paint off your brush and then work down with white, it'll get lighter as it goes towards the bottom. And if you can imagine kind of doing this with a huge brush on a canvas, that would be like your base layer, okay? And then if you had an ocean under that, I might mix, what makes green? Right, and a little tip is that you always add your darker color to your lighter color, right? If I try to add yellow into blue, the blue is gonna swallow up that yellow because blue is such a powerful color. So if I just add the little bit of blue that's on the tip of this brush into the yellow, it's gonna immediately turn green, and just a little bit more hopefully will make it a nice blue-green that could be like an ocean color. And then I could make my ocean down here, wipe that color off onto my towel so I don't have as much, and then add some white into that, and then work. I might need a little more. I should have done my white first there, but then I can kind of start here and make an ocean. And you'll see if I leave it mixed, it's gonna look more like waves, it's gonna look more like nature than if I try to blend it all into one solid color, okay? Hopefully that makes some sense. And if you have a reflection, like from the sun, you might even wanna stick a little bit of like yellow or something into the, you know, make your sunset and your sky. So that's a gradient. So that's something I'd like for you to practice since you have that white in there. And again, the really important thing is to clean your brush if you want the dark color to get lighter. You can't leave the dark paint on and keep getting a lighter effect. So that other one that's kind of fun is the Graffito. So that's a technique that's used in glaze. And let's see. So you're gonna take one color, right, and put it down, and then while it's still wet, using the butt end of your brush, you can make designs in that. Okay, and you could even do layers of multiple colors. So you can see how that would be good on like the side of a cabin where you want to add texture, something like that. Then there was the wet and wet, which is actually a watercolor technique. And this could also be used for water, but you paint your paper with water first, like water in the ocean, and then you can add, you know, you'll get kind of a tie-dye effect if you add a couple different colors into that. So it's almost, I just put yellow and blue, and then it kind of turns into some green color. Now a canvas is not as absorbent as watercolor paper, so it's going to take a little bit longer for that to dry. But you can use acrylics like watercolors in a pinch. And then the overlay was where they took one color and let it dry for a little bit, and then we'll go back in a minute and put an overlay. If you want to try, I think they called it, let's see, Impasto. So this is a palette knife. There you can also use half of a, I'll cut some tongue depressors at an angle because that makes a good cheater. I need to get more of these. But impasto is kind of fun. It's like what a lot of the Impressionists used. So you're taking a couple of colors and mixing them together with a palette knife instead of your paintbrush. And there's actually a lot of different techniques you can achieve with that, and that's a great way to get thicker paints. It's really fun. And again, I always encourage less blending with acrylics because when you overblend, you tend to get like one. It's just, I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of an acrylic painting when you're just painting single colors. You wouldn't really need to do all the mixing and layering. Scumbling is a colored pencil technique, but it's a great technique for like leaves on a tree. So I'm going to start with yellow, and it's just little circles. So I'm making these little circles, and then since yellow and blue make green, I'm going to get some white and blue, and I'm just going to add those circular, probably could have used less blue on that, circular movements, and I can just experiment with doing those lighter and darker and layering. Acrylic you have to work pretty fast with. The reason people like oils is because oils don't dry for hours, so you can just blend and blend and blend all day and nothing is permanent. I always like to add a little bit of white for highlight and life though, whereas acrylics, they dry pretty fast. So now if I wanted to finish this overlay, it's pretty dry now, so I could decide a color that, if I want it to have kind of a violet hue, I could overlay this red with blue, but I think I'd rather have it be like a sky or a sunset. So I'm going to just take some yellow and gently put that over the top of my red. And since that red's dry, it's gonna it'll just have a nice, like, in between the different brush strokes, you'll get actually a really orange looking color, even though that's just 2 layers of paint. Now that my gradient's dry, also I can try some dry brush with a fine tipped brush on top of that, like if I wanted to make a little boat in that water. I could get one of my darker colors and I could go on top of that now. That's an advantage. I couldn't do that with watercolor, and I could mix that with a little bit of red too if I wanted it more of a contrasting color. So I'd encourage you to experiment with mixing and layering. So I'll just have you guys start out with those, and then I encourage you to use all the paint on this palette. So if you finish your techniques and you have extra, I will cut some pieces of cardstock, and then you guys can just play with the rest of your paints and enjoy that. But please remember, you can just wash them out in your water before you put them away, and then brushes always get stored with the bristles up. Otherwise, you've all seen a brush where the bristles are bent permanently. Not cool. So it's nice just to wash all your stuff at your table. Then all I have to do is go dump my water out and stack my cup, and I have my brushes all clean already. So